Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 27th of June. I'm Derek Clark, back from my holidays, and I'm joined by Jonny McFarlane as ever. How are we doing, Jonny?
Yeah, good, mate. Good to have you back in amongst it. You've had quite a few holidays now, so I'm hoping you're refreshed and ready to go and full of vigour and beans and can't wait to get away on pre-season trips and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I've missed a lot, folks, so I'm hoping that everyone tuning in can keep me up to date with what's been going on. I know that a host of things have happened last week when I was sunning myself in south west Wales. So yeah, good to be back and talking all things Rangers. Before we do that, though, folks, just a bit of housekeeping as ever. As you can see, the little ticker below. We've still got that great offer on the website. If you sign up now to the Rangers Review, you get a free 30-day trial for full access. After that, it's just £2.99 per month. So as a cracking offer, just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And as you can see as well, you know the job by now, the Download One football app is Rangers Review sponsor for the morning briefing. It is absolutely free, so it won't cost you a penny. It's available for both iPhone and Android users. You can keep up to date with all the latest goings on from Ibrox, lots of Rangers Review content on there as well. And you can get notifications to your phone. Not only Rangers stuff, you can also keep abreast of what's going on, not only in Scottish football, but down south in England and in the continent as well, the Champions League, Europa League, and of course the Conference League. So get yourself over to wherever you get your apps, folks, the One Football app. And as I mentioned, the good news is won't cost you a penny. Okay, Jonny, let's talk all things Rangers. That's why people are tuning in. What a bit of news that I sort of cast my eye over the last few days is that apparently former Derby County skipper Tom Lawrence has been linked with the club. Number of clubs apparently sniffing about him. Welsh international. I've seen him a few times, Jonny. If Rangers can get this boy in for a free, it is a terrific bit of business because he's one of those players that gets bums off seats. He's a proper talent. I've read that Sheffield United are also believed to be interested. A number of other clubs as well. What's your feeling on that? Would you be welcoming him with open arms if he turned up at Ibrox, or do you know much about him?
I don't, Derek. I've got to be honest with you. Like yourself, I've been busy all weekend and not had a real chance to dig into the detail. But we'll do that today and have a good look at this player. That's not to say that there's anything whatsoever in this. The truth is, Derek, 99% of these transfer rumours are just that. They don't actually amount to anything. So it's very important to stress we've not had any detail or any information on this player. So this is just what we're talking about is links. As opposed to anything tangible. Now, he is available. We know what the situation is at Derby. Derek, you say you've seen him and he's a good player. He's 28. He's got a decent goal-scoring record for Derby. But he's had something of a transient career. He's been out on a lot of loans. I think I count 6 loans off the top of my list there that I have. He's never been a kind of... How would you describe it? A prolific goal scorer. But what he does give you is he gives you a physical focal point. He's not particularly tall, but he's a unit. And I think he links up the play pretty well from what I can gather. But again, we will look into that. We will drill into the detail of what he's capable of. Certainly, as you say, Derek, you've been telling me before this video that he is a talented player who could bring something to the table if he was to arrive at Ibrox, but we just don't know at this stage if there's anything in this. This is something we'll be looking at as the day goes on.
Yeah, and Kev McDonald quite rightly points out he's a talented player, but has had his off-the-field issues. He has, listen, he's no angel, but I'm just I've seen him a few times in action for Derby, and he was a standout player for me. I know there's a divides opinion, a lot of the comments coming in here, but on a free, I would heartily take him. I think he's certainly worthwhile bringing in. But listen, like you say, Jonny, there's so many players linked with Rangers just now. There'll be very, very few, if any, of those players linked in the public domain that will end up being paraded with the scarf above their head Ibrox, such as Rangers transfer business and keeping things in-house. Now, a lot of comments, I know we was touched on, is the sort of lack of activity a concern? William says, I'm not too concerned yet, but if we don't have business done by this time next week, I'd be worried. And Jason McLaughlin also says he's not happy with the lack of transfer activity going on. He's using the word embarrassing. I think that's a tad harsh, Johnny. What do you make of it so far? I've got to say, you trust Ross Wilson and the recruitment team behind the scenes and identifying the players that they require and bringing them in. There's a long time to go in terms of the transfer window. Where do you stand on this?
I think it's far too early to get so excited. I don't know why there seems to be this kind of temperature rising on social media about everything nowadays. We've seen it get worse and worse over the years. And at the moment, people are getting very, very frustrated about a lack of transfer activity. But the club have sorted out John Souttar. He's already in the door and they are moving behind the scenes on other things. But ultimately, the players aren't even back yet. We're still quite a bit away from any sort of what I would call kind of key moments in terms of getting players in. There's got to be a level of understanding that Rangers, as it stands, have a very, very, very good team. They've just got to the Europa League final.
Yeah,
I know the league was lost, but listen, and I said this, I'm just going to repeat it again. If Rangers score one of the million chances they had away at Dundee United, and Fashion Sakala's shot at Parkhead bounces into the net from the inside of the post and not out, then Rangers have won the league. I mean, that's the fine margins that we're talking about. Incredibly fine margins. On top of that, you've got the Scottish Cup, and on top of that, you've got Europa League. This is not a Rangers team that needs completely taken apart and then put back together. It needs a reboot, not a rebuild. And this is something that we've been talking about. Now, that might change if a load of players depart. But at the moment, no one's departed. So I think there needs to be an understanding that if you bring in a host of players, they need to actually come in and fit with the players that are already there. And I don't think you can necessarily move and bring in players for positions that are already filled.
Yeah,
Rangers need to replace Aaron Ramsey and Ahmed Diallo. Those are the two positions that are at the moment need to be filled. And if more players leave, then they will leave. Then more players will come in. But I think at the moment, Derek, my own opinion, I don't know what yours is, I find the temperature is a little bit, it's not in sync with where we are in the 27th of June. I think the club deserves a bit more time.
Yeah, I've got to say, I totally agree. And I know people get upset by the word relaxed and all that at the moment amongst Rangers fans. But I've got to say, at this stage of the season, I don't know if it's experience following Rangers, but I'm not throwing babies out with the bathwater and what have you at this point of the season. We're just about to hit July next week. Long way to go, of course. Of course, there's the Champions League qualifiers that are approaching, but you've got to trust, as I mentioned, the recruitment staff, the management team, that they're identifying players. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst said, of course, after the Scottish Cup final, there will be a bit of work. He will refresh the side in the summer. And you've got to trust that will be the case. And as you said in a comment that came in, a lot of players on holiday. Listen, we're in the close season. We're now opening back up. I think the players that are due back shortly for the start of pre-season. Of course, they go away to Portugal next week. I think things will start ramping up from then onwards, Johnny.
I think what we've got to remember, Derek, is from the first week of April, Rangers really turned the screw and got themselves back and focused, right? Yeah. After that defeat at Ibrox, where, see, to be honest, you look back now on that game, coolly, calmly, Rangers were dominant in that game, you know, especially in the second half. They just couldn't get through that Celtic rearguard. And it certainly wasn't like Celtic weren't dominant and won the game deservedly. You know, minimum Rangers deserved from that game was a draw. But let's forget that. Let's park that and just look at from that point on. Rangers were absolutely terrific. And that was without Morelos. That was without Helander. That is without Souttar. Now, you put those three back into that team that was playing the way it was up until the point of the Europa League final, and in the Europa League final and the Scottish Cup final, and you think to yourself, that's not a team that needs a lot of surgery. Yes, it needs a right winger. I totally get that. Amad Diallo came in that position. You know, these Dubai and different people have different opinions on how Amad Diallo did. There's no doubt in my mind that a right midfielder is required, and Aaron Ramsey will need to be replaced as that sort of kind of box-to-box presence. I totally agree with that. But to finesse and get those right players in that will take Rangers to the next level, I think that needs a little bit of time. Now, that might be this week. There might be good news coming this week.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if there was a signing this week.
Yeah.
But I think it's too early to be hoisting the banners of there needs to be an inquiry on what's going on. It's, as Cammy says there, it's 2 weeks since the window's open. Folk need to chill out. I totally understand why people would like to see more signings come in, but I just don't think this is the time to quite be getting too excited about it. If in 3 weeks' time, Derek, we're in the same situation, I'll have a completely different opinion on it.
Yes. Listen, a lot of comments coming in talking about the other club on the other side of the city, Johnny, that the fact that they've spent a bit of money, and they have done.
They have to spend that to stay still, though. That's the difference. They have to spend 10 million on Carter Vickers. Well, it won't be 10 million up front. It'll be whatever it is, 6 million plus add-ons. And then to get Jota in will be expensive as well. You're talking about the thick end of 10 million up front and up to 17 or 18 million in add-ons. That's just for them to stand still. They're not improving.
Well, listen, the proof will be in the pudding once the league kicks back off at the end of July. We'll find out what squad is in the better shape. But as we know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Lots of other comments coming in here. Graham Corkin, good friend of the show, he thinks that Gio's got Celtic's number once everyone's back fit. Plus a few additions. He thinks Rangers will batter Celtic. Plenty of time for those additions still. So he's got plenty of confidence in the backroom team bringing the players in. You mentioned, Johnny, there's been no departures other than the two loan players, as you mentioned. Jake Hasty, you don't really count him. You never get a look in, really. Is that a concern, possible, the lack of departures at this point in time?
Again, it's so early, Derek. I mean, Jake Hasty is representative of maybe about 5 players, I think, who don't contribute much. But there's not a huge amount of them. There's not a lot of fat on that squad, I don't think. You've got Glenn Middleton, Hasty, Jack Simpson. There's a couple of others, but they're not coming to me right now in this second. But yeah, there is the odd player, but Jake Hasty's already away. You know, Stephen Kelly's another one that I think has been mentioned. I really like Stephen Kelly as a player. I'd like to see him get some sort of a chance.
Yeah.
Because I see something there. But other people might think that he's just not gonna make it, and I do understand why they would think that. I don't think there's a lot of fat that's needing trimmed off, as there has been in kind of previous seasons. I mean, the obvious one is Jack Simpson, coming from the Championship, having been a Premier League player with Bournemouth. I don't think he would have come in altogether that cheaply. So I think that's someone you would probably want to move out in terms of the wage bill. I know he was a project player. He wasn't brought in as a first choice, but he's certainly someone I think that isn't going to make an impact. You saw time and again, other people were chosen ahead of him when he could have started. So that for me is a no-brainer. Glenn Middleton has been out on loan for pretty much the last 2 or 3 years, hasn't he? So that's another one you would expect to get sorted out. And I mean, Jake Hasty, I thought it was a good move at the time because he kind of exploded onto the scene, didn't he, at Motherwell for a couple of months. And then there was a whole contract thing. So you thought, he's kind of gone off the boil, and you totally understand that. When he arrived at Ibrox, you thought, this is a guy that's going places, and it's a good move. But it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. So to get him off the books permanently, as opposed to on loan, I think is a good bit of business by Ross Wilson. So I don't know. Is there any other names that you think that are jumping out at you there? I mean, maybe Robbie McCrory would be one that they would be looking to move on at this point if he's not going to sign a new deal and is kind of being a little bit belligerent about his future based around the McGregor re-signing.
Yeah, like I say, I was away on holiday when that news broke, and I think I wrote a piece with regards to the players' contracts, Johnny, on the website, where I felt that if he wasn't going to be promoted to at least a number 2 this season, then he's at an age now where he has to be going to seek first-team football. I know, what is he, 24 now? Generally speaking, it's young for a goalkeeper, but there's goalkeepers down south playing in the Premier League at a young age, and I think for Robbie McCrory, he has to have a pathway to first-team football for the sake of his own career. I think it's no good for him just being a third choice. He's better than that, and yeah, it remains to be seen what's going to happen with regards to that. Terry Monroe says his Middleton out of contract. No, he's got a year left on his deal. That expires next summer. Rob Cole says, Derek, have you seen much of Lovelace from Millwall? I have not seen any of them, I've got to be honest. I
think it was five sub appearances. I mean, I asked Josh to do a deep dive into Lovelace in terms of what he's done, and you know, it's not a huge amount of minutes, Derek, there. So I think it would be quite difficult to have spent too much time watching him.
Yeah, I've not seen any of them, but all accounts, I've read the reports, and he's will be a very decent acquisition, that's for sure.
Listen, Derek, just on that, you know, the whole Lovelace thing, I've already seen somebody else mention a certain Linda Lovelace, and it was quite funny to see Josh's reaction to all this, completely oblivious, not having a clue what the jokes are about or who anyone's talking about, or, you know, just too long ago for him. The 70s, I mean, no.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. Callum McLean mentioned a good point, and I'm not too sure yet, Callum, any news on Offabor, if that's how you spell his name yet. Of course, we've not seen any of them.
The last we were told was that he's still undergoing tests.
Yes.
You know, you've seen him, he is around the squad. You see him celebrating and things like that after games, and
yes,
he is in and about the players. But I don't think we've got a finalised medical report on where he's going to be and what's going to happen in his future. Hopefully we'll get that at some point, because I think the club do need to come and sort of address that, at least with an update on roughly where he's at.
Yeah, and listen, when he signed last summer, I interviewed a number of his teammates and what have you, and they were all speaking very, very highly of him. So those images at the end of the season with him being in and around the squad is encouraging, that's for sure. Let's hope that the next update we get, he's nearer first team action. But yeah, he's another one you completely forget about, Johnny, that a player that can come in. The youngsters, Alex Lowry, Leon King, are two others that will come in and play more of a role next season. There's no doubt about it. So you've got to factor that. And there's a question that came in here. Of course, I mentioned that the team is flying out to Portugal next week. We'll be there, folks, to cover, of course, the pre-season camp, and they're taking on Sunderland in Albufeira as well. There's a comment came in, though. I'm trying to find it, Johnny, but it says, is it important to have the new signings on that plane to Portugal? John Dooley comes into it. Yes, it is. However, football doesn't work like that at times. And in an ideal scenario, you want your new signings in as early as possible to work with them, get a full pre-season. But listen, it's not going to be the case. That's just the way of the world, unfortunately. There's nothing you can do about that. But
Derek, it's huge that Rangers didn't make the Champions League. You know, in terms of the ability to secure big money signings, knowing that you've got that big cash pot there, it's an enormous element to the club's financial moves.
Yeah.
You know, Celtic have that, safe in the knowledge that they've got that money coming in. Rangers have to go through two potentially fraught ties. That's if they get through the first one. You know, you could end up with someone like Monaco, or there's other good teams in that draw, to be fair. It's not just Monaco, but that's the one that scares me, to be honest, looking at it. They've just spent 18 million euros on a player from Liverpool. So that makes it difficult. But the good news is that for the first time, Rangers can actually account for the Europa League being in play, because no matter what, they will actually qualify for Europa League group stages this year, which is the first time. But the Champions League's where it's at, and that's where the money is. And if you have that, then I think you see a much stronger transfer policy. But Rangers have to sort of balance everything in terms of speculating to accumulate, not going over the top in terms of the signings that they make, because you can't gamble. Now, I know a lot of guys in the comments will come back and say, no, you need to speculate to accumulate. Well, Rangers have they've seen what happens when you speculate to accumulate. It can be a really, really dangerous road to go down.
Yeah.
We've all went through that for the last 10 years and actually longer, far longer, because the sort of the downsizing of Rangers went on 10 years prior to that. So it's only really now that you're getting the Rangers that we traditionally knew, 2 decades ago, back in play now. And that's what happens when you speculate to accumulate, when you gamble on future success that isn't nailed down. So I think there needs to be an understanding of the reality of football and finances in football, and the Champions League would make such a big difference. Now, Rangers, fortunately, last year, they were able to make up the shortfall, Derek, that they missed out on by going out to Malmo because of that fantastic Europa League run. But you can't. That's a once every sort of decade type thing. That's probably longer, to be fair. It's not something you can bank on every season. So what we have to hope is that Rangers can go through those qualifying stages, because let's face it, the one thing that does give me confidence about the qualifying stages, regardless of who they draw, is Rangers have been brilliant in qualifying campaigns in the last 4 years. They've got through every single one, so this is a team that's very experienced at this kind of level of getting through two-legged ties. So you have to go into these games feeling that this is a squad that no one will want to face.
It'll be interesting. Susie Sheep makes an interesting comment. Rangers need to adopt an Ajax-style youth policy, need to use their youth system.
I think they're doing that, though.
That's what I was going to say, When we've seen at Tynecastle, when pretty much the B team went and ran over the top of Hearts, albeit it was the last game of the season, but a bit of a festival of football. But the amount of young players coming through is extremely encouraging. We need to remember that as well. You don't have to go out and spend vast sums of cash to rejuvenate the squad. If you're getting young boys that are talented enough coming through the ranks, that know the demands of playing for Rangers, then that's even better, of course. She goes on to make a point. What's the point of the academy? We'll have 2 guys from it in the first team. I'm sure alluding to King and Lowry, but you've got the likes of McCann knocking on the door, Johnny, Cole McKinnon, of course.
The other thing, Derek, is that this is important about the academy, is that when you make changes in the academy, it takes a decade for them to come to fruition. So now in 2022, you're seeing the benefits of the changes that were made when the board first came in and Mark Warburton started getting stuck into the academy to try and help improve it. And then over the years since, Rangers have improved each time. We're starting to see the benefits of that now, and we'll continue to see the benefits of the Rangers Academy. But it's been a change that's going to happen over years, and you'll see the development.
You've been corrected by Roy Nelson, Johnny. He says talking about winning every qualifier. Only last season Champions League qualifier, which was a big one, and of course two big qualifiers. Well, four two-legged ties coming up in the Champions League, and hopefully they fare better than they did last season.
I was thinking my head was in the Europa League, obviously, when I said that. You can't discount that, and that was a huge game. And the thing about that tie, Derek, I think hopefully the players will have learned from, is you remember exactly how that game panned out. Rangers got the late goal with Stephen Davis in Malmo, and you thought, well, 2-1 with the away goal. That's a terrific result. You get them back to Ibrox. The place is bouncing. Alfredo Morelos scores a brilliant goal. 1-0. You're basically through because of the away goals. Then they get a man sent off. And everyone's thinking, easy street here. And then, I don't know. I still don't know what happened in that game. I know Kolak, who's been linked, who I know Rangers are interested in. There's a lot of people asking about that, and they are interested in him. Whether or not it'll happen or not is another story. But hopefully they've learned from that game about managing a tie, because that is never a game that Rangers should have lost. That one against Malmo.
And I know supporters are getting concerned. The Champions League qualifiers coming up. They don't want history repeating itself, and and going out again. But you've got to trust that the management team and the recruitment staff. That's where I'm at the moment. I mean, I think things will ramp up in the next few weeks. There's no doubt about it as we get up for the new campaign. And as Aldo says, yeah, absolutely, couldn't agree more. I think that'll do us here, folks. Thanks very much to everyone with interacting with the show as ever. It's very much appreciated. Just a reminder, we've got that great offer on the website just now. If you subscribe, you get a free 30-day trial. You get full access. You can find out if it's for you. It's only £2.99 per month thereafter, so it's a terrific offer. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. Okay, we'll be back again tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the